probably just a little figuring out how all this works in the virtual system, but well, we'll figure it all out. So we'll get used to it. Okay. So shall we get started?
Yeah, I will get started. So I will start. Hello, Tashidilek. I'm Khechok from Sera Jey Science Center of Sera Jey Monastery University. I welcome you all to the first ever 5-day virtual debate winter school 2021 program organized jointly by Sera Jey Monastery University in South India and the University of Groningen, Netherlands. So under the leadership and the guidance of Khenpo Rinpoche and the Administrator Office of the Sera Jey, we have been doing a debate study on Tibetan monastic student, monastery over the last 5 years in collaboration with the Western scientists. And we also have successfully published 2 scientific papers. Now, so many young scholars and students from India and as well as from abroad are showing great interest in learning Tibetan Buddhist monastic debate and its technique. So we are happy to host this 5-day debate winter school 2021 outreach program. So now I would like to request Khenpo Rinpoche Logan Rinpoche, the Abbot of Sera Jey Monastery University, to address our audience. Khenpo Rinpoche was born in Kalimpong in India, and he was recognized as the reincarnation of the Sera Jey master scholar Khenpo Chumbela. He was formally ordained and consecrated at Sera Jey Monastery at the age of 15, and he was formally and at the age of 15. Prior to his initiation, he has received a formal school training until the age of 14. After successfully and completely entire monastic study and Gelug University examination, Khenpo Rinpoche received the Geshe Harampa scholastic title in 1994. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama appointed him as the Abbot of Gyutu Tantric Monastery in 2011, and later the Abbot of Segyu Institute of Buddhist Studies, Salagura. And in 2016, His Holiness 14th Dalai Lama appointed him as the Abbot of Sera Jey Monastery University in South India. Now I request Khenpo Rinpoche to address our audience for the Winter Debate School of 2021.
First of all, I would like to wish Tashitile to everyone else. And I'm very honored and pleased to welcome you all in this debate winter school workshop being organized by Sera Jey Monastery University, Bailakopi in India in association with the University of Groningen, Netherlands. The primary aim of this debate winter school program is to provide you all an introduction to the methods or the techniques for Tibetan monastic dialectical debate. This monastic debate has been widely practiced across the major Tibetan Buddhist monastics, learning institutes like Sera, Drepung, Ganden, and other Tibetan institutions as well. And just to give you a brief background or a sense of what monastic debate is all about and the monastic study courses or curriculum in a Tibetan monastic university. The current form of Tibetan monastic debate was developed in the 12th century by Tibetan master Chapa Chuchi Senke. And at this point, I was just wondering that at this period, the Nalanda University was destroyed in India more or less at the same period. At the same time, in Tibet, the former master Chapachö Sengye introduced this dialectical debate system. So I was wondering if there was any kind of relations between these two. So it may be, as we call as a karma, or it could be a coincidence. Well, in Tibet and during this period, this debating system was widely developed, and in big monasteries like Sera, Jebung, Gandhin, there was a big gathering of monks debating. So when the monks was debating in such a big gathering, there was always physical activities. It's like clapping the hands, stamping the foot, and like jumping and pushing, and there was also laughter, and the monks used to crack jokes. But at the same time, your focus on the subject matter which you are debating is not distracted. Always they are focused on the debating matter. So there was a lot of kind of excitement or joyfulness when monks was debating, and during that time there was no kind of modern technology or any kind of gadgets. So it's totally like an entertainment for the monks. So when the monks gather and debate, there are lots of activities, physical and mental, and totally focusing your mind on the subject. So I think it was very helpful for the monks to, train their mind on one kind of subject, what you're debating. So that's something I just want to mention a brief here. And it is known to be a form of analytical meditation practice that complements or focuses on single objects or subject matter of discussions. So it is a powerful method to clear up doubts and mistakes, concepts, and increase the critical thinking skills, and to develop the wisdom of comprehensive understanding of the subject. So it is also a powerful tool to uproot the negativity of the mind or the destructive emotions and the sufferings to achieve more lasting happiness and inner peace, and to develop compassion for all sentient beings. And secondly, the complete cost of monastic study to become a geshe in a monastic university usually takes at least 20 years and more than that. So rigorous training and practice in the 5 major Buddhist philosophical treatises that are the core curriculum. The study includes the perfections of wisdom, the middle way study, the treasure of knowledge, valid cognitions, the rules of discipline of monasteries. So these treatises are classical works of the great Indian and Tibetan scholars, and all of the written commentaries are on the teachings of the Buddha Shakyamuni. So with the far-sighted vision and the blessing of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the major monastic academic institutions are well established in India to preserve and promote the Tibetan Buddhist culture and its heritage, and to create an opportunity to study the ancient Indian Nalanda thoughts and philosophy. Thousands of monk students from Tibet and Himalaya regions, Asia and Western countries are studying the Buddhist philosophy in these monastic universities. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama has engaged in the dialogue on Buddhist science and the Westerns with the great scientists over the period of 30 years, like Mind and Life Conference. He emphasized the relevance of the ancient Indian Nalanda thoughts and the Buddhist science of mind, logics, and reasonings in today's education system for educating the hearts and mind of the younger generations. So science educations of the Tibetan monasteries can make better contributions in education and global peace and future. To this end, The Western science, mainly biology, physics, and neuroscience, has been formally incorporated in our monastery curriculum since 2013. Along with the daily science classes, and Sera Jey departments also engaging in scientific debate study in collaborations with the Western scientists from the United States of America and Europe since 2016. So to investigate the effect of analytical meditations or the monastic debates on brain and behavior, 2 scientific research papers has been published recently in the reputed scientific journal in the current neuro scientific study of reasoning-based analytical meditation practice. It is observed and found that monastic debate helps enhance our concentration, attention, and working memory. So this increase was stronger for experienced monks as compared with junior monks at the beginning of the debate educations and trainings. The evidence for increase in interbrain synchrony during the moment of agreements in debate can helps foster social bonding, positive effects on stress and emotional resilience in daily life situations and individual well-being. So I think we can use this ancient, powerful tool or debate in modern education field to develop our intellectual, critical thinking, or analytical skill, and also for the psychological and mental development. So that's all, and now I would like to express my deep gratitude and thanks to Venerable Losang Donyo and Dr. Marieke van Vugt. I'm sorry if I pronounce it a bit. And Stefan and Sera Jey for the tremendous efforts and time in organizing this outreach program of Debate Winter School. I hope this wonderful 5-day workshops will be a learning experience to all the participants from India, Europe, and the United States. So I would wish you all a good luck and my prayers for all of you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Khenpo, for such a insightful historical background of dialectical debate that was developed in India and then later in Tibet, and also about the scientific studies in the monastic and how our scientific study and debate studies affect our mind and behavior and also resilience and well-being of all society. So I'm very thankful to Khenpo for such a beautiful presentation or address to our audience. Now I would like to request Dr. Marieke van Vugt. She is assistant professor at the University of Groningen, Netherlands. She obtained her PhD in the neuroscience program from the University of Pennsylvania, and she did her postdoc research on the neural correlates of decision at the Princeton University. She started her own research group in Groningen University in 2010, aims to understand the mind wandering. In addition, she is also interested in how meditation practice affect our cognitive system and our behavior. Since 2016, she has been doing a debate study on the Tibetan monastic monk in Sera Jey Monastic University, and after lots of tremendous effort, and we're able to publish the scientific papers on debate studies. And she's still teaching our science core team member statistics and maths. So we are very thankful to Dr. Marieke. Now I would like to request Marieke to say a few words to this debate program. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your kind words. It's a pleasure to be here at this moment and to see so many people from around the world being interested in learning debate. I myself, as part of the studies that were just mentioned, have learned a little bit of debate from Venerable Donyo. And it's been, for myself, it's been a really, really helpful.
Can you hear me, Marieke?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? So learning to debate myself has been very helpful because I found that it's a very joyful thing to do, but at the same time, it's also a really great way to systematically investigate whatever you're interested in and to critically think about your own assumptions. So I found that extremely helpful. And also, I remember the first time I saw monks debating, it was such a fascinating sight to see so many monks being so excited about knowledge and just the sight of thousands of monks in the debate courtyard at Sera Monastery, just discussing philosophy with so much passion and vigor is really fascinating. And then I also vividly remember one day when I was studying debate in the lab at Sera Jey, and the monks were just totally in it. And then afterwards we asked as scientists, what are you debating about? And they said, it's some grammar thing, something about the past tense and the present tense and the future tense. And I was like, wow, if my students were to get so excited about their discussions in whatever I'm teaching, that would be fantastic. So I think just these experiences give some of it, kind of an image of the potential benefits that debate might have. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this winter school, and I'm also looking forward to many more years of collaboration in which I can both continue to learn debate myself, but also we can hopefully do more scientific studies of this practice and make it be of benefit to the world at large. So yeah, thank you once again to all the organizers, all the co-organizers to make this happen, and for all the attendees for all your enthusiasm to join. And then, of course, next thing I want to do is to introduce one of the most important people for actually making this all happen on a practical level, which is with Stefan Riegl. I met Stefan a while ago when he was interested in doing a master project with me. He actually developed the first computational model of debate, which is a very nice training tool to actually help you get the mechanics down. So we, debating robots actually exist. And then, yeah, this, I think these, this is really fascinating developments as well. So hopefully more to come. But anyway, Stefan is also a fantastic person. If you have any technical questions, he can help out. And maybe Stefan, do you want to say a couple of words?
Quick words. Thank you very much for those kind words to Marieke, and also to Khechok and everybody speaking before. It was a very kind and exciting introduction, and I'm looking very much forward to the next 5 days with everybody and the program that's going to happen. So yes, hi, I'm Stefan. I'm the tech guy in this environment. In case of questions, feel free to ask anybody, but if you have particular technical questions, feel free to approach me anytime. If you don't find me immediately, I'll be running around helping people, or I will be on the bottom right of the outside courtyard. I will be at the info booth hanging around waiting for you. Yeah, thank you very much for the warm words again, and leave the stage to the speakers now. I guess.
Well, maybe I'll just take it from here.
Right.
Thank you so much for everyone who has presented so far, and especially to our abbot, the Abbot of Sera Jey Monastic University, Khenpo Rinpoche, for your wonderful introduction and all of your support for these efforts to bring this Tibetan Nalanda monastic debate into the wider world. and it's really something that's going to be fruitful. And that's because of all the efforts of the people who are working to make it happen. And that includes Marieke, which of course is basically the main cause for this very course. Without her, there's no way that we ever would have even had the idea to make a course like this. So thank you very much. And Stefan, not only is he our tech guy, so if course participants, students, if you do have technical issues, you can send a message to Stefan and he will help you with that. But he's also our resident artist, our 8-bit master sculptor and architect who developed this whole virtual Sera Jey monastery, which is remarkably similar to our actual debate courtyard at the real monastery, which of course, if you can find images of and even look at on Google Earth and see how incredible it is that we have this little virtual world, which is like being in the monastery itself. So from here on, what I will do, and I'm Losang Donyo again, just for those who don't know, and I'll be the main presenter and instructor during these 5 days. So what I'll do from here on out is just give an overview of what we'll be doing. I know it's been a little confusing because we have several venues and media for presenting materials, and even you have different groups of people connecting in different ways. So we have a live stream going right now on YouTube. So we have some people joining that way. We have about 40 people present here in this Gather Town environment right now. And so I'll just give a quick overview of what we'll be doing for each of the 3 sessions per day. And then I'll do a little bit of a step back. We could take a little meta look at what it is we're doing here in the context of simply what is our aim, what is our goal for learning this style of debate in these 5 days. So, and with that, if Khenpo Logan, if you need to go and do other things, you're welcome to do that. If you'd like to stay and listen, you're welcome as well. That would be wonderful. And really, thank you so much from all of us for your presence and for introducing this Nalanda debate. Now, what I'll do is I'll just start by saying we have 5 days here. Each day we have 3 sessions, except I hope you all understand what's happening is that the time zones are different for the different students who are going to be joining us, who are here right now, so that we had to make one of the sessions different for different time zones just because we couldn't fit it all in at the same simultaneous time. So that means that the 3rd session, people will just be gathering for debate. I won't need to be here. There won't need to be much explanation. So those times are going to be different. However, sessions 1 and session 2 will be simultaneous for all students. And session 3, for the students watching by live stream, it will only be live streamed for the Eastern time zone, Eastern Standard Time, United States. So that means that if you want to watch that live streaming, that's going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you can't make it at that time, you could always watch the recording. Everything will be archived right on that YouTube channel that you will have the link for. So that's about the debate sessions. And of course, if you can join in person, in virtual person, that's the best option. Then you can actually practice debating. So what is the structure then of the other 2 sessions? So the 3rd session is debate, and at the end of session 2 today, I'll give more instruction about what you'll be doing during that debate session. So the sessions 1 and 2, what we'll be doing is spending a few minutes doing some explanation, doing some Q&A, going over the course materials that hopefully you all have downloaded. So right now we have course materials up mostly just for day 1, and we don't need to have materials for the whole week yet because there's a lot. So just to kind of have what we need for each day right now, if you haven't already, please go to the Slack forum and download those materials for day 1. and that includes the sample debate and a script that we'll use. It also includes a document that covers the structure of debate, the whole structure of how to conduct a debate in this Nalanda tradition, Tibetan tradition of debate. And then we'll go through those documents and we'll do some discussion, and then we'll break out into breakout groups. And in breakout groups, what we'll actually do is have a chance to practice. So session 1, we'll do that. Then we'll come back together. I'll call everyone back in. We'll have about 20 minutes of debate, come back together, and we'll do another round of going through material, Q&A, and then we'll do another round of breakout so we can have more time for practice. So that's going to be these 5 days. Sessions 1 and 2 are going to follow that basic format, of course, with the exception of this session where we're just introducing the course, and then the last session on Friday where we'll be giving a closing statement and reviewing the course material. So for now, that's the basic structure, and we'll just guide you along as we're going. If anyone has any questions, you can text in the chat box. You can raise your hand. If you look on the bottom of the screen here in Gather Town, there's a little hand symbol. You can click that, and that will indicate that your hand is raised, and I can call on you, at which point you can unmute yourself. We don't have universal control over people's mics, so everyone has your own mute unmute button, and if you have a question or a comment, we can call on you and we will unmute you. I'm sorry, and please unmute yourself at that point when I call on you. Okay, so we'll go through the course like that. We'll have session 3 debate sessions, which we'll explain more a little later. And for now, what I'd like to do is, because we've already been kind of sitting here listening to people talk for about half an hour. Well, first, let's just first go and do a little zoom out. So what is the main goal of what we're trying to do here? Well, it's twofold. One is to get a sense of how to practice Nalanda debate, to learn a new skill, which is at once a logic skill as well as a skill of dialogue. It's a type of social skill, and that was talked about by in our introduction, especially looking at the research that Marieke is doing herself, where these are some of the questions, the research questions of, well, how does debate affect these various social and cognitive skills? So, but for now, we'll just take it as a given that yes, they do. they are certain skills that are developed in debate, and that's what we're trying to learn. Another factor, though, on the other hand, we're really trying to create a community of debaters. Now, because debate is so socially motivated and really grounded in a certain kind of culture, a society of people who have an interest to, as Marieke mentioned, this real interest, real aspiration to learn, to develop more knowledge, increase their knowledge. So to do that, we need to have people who are willing to and happy to practice this kind of debate, so we can explore, we can investigate. So it's kind of an experiment. And this really itself is, now we're not collecting hard data. Maybe we could have a future course where we do and do more kind of survey or something, but for now it's just an experiment in your personal experience to see what it's like to create this kind of debate community, see what comes out of it. So that's one of the factors that we're working on. Now, when we have a course like this in debate, there's a lot of different ways we can teach the material. So here, what we'll be doing is what could be called, from a pedagogical perspective, sort of an educational theory, we're going to be doing a proficiency-oriented approach. So really, we're taking this as a skill that we're learning how to practice this skill and develop this skill. So we're not going to spend that much time talking about sort of the background or history or sort of underlying theoretical framework. And Khenpo Rinpoche already gave enough of an introduction about the history. I think that is good enough. If you have more questions, you're welcome to raise them later. So we're really going to be just focusing on how do we develop this skill. Now, some people may have the question or doubt, well, doesn't this kind of debate and these skills, these cognitive skills, these logic skills, don't they already exist in the Western intellectual tradition, academic tradition? You know, there's a tradition stretching back to Aristotle, of course, Socrates and the Socratic method. We have the what's called obligatio, a system of debate, which seems fairly similar, practiced in medieval Europe and the monasteries of the pre-Enlightenment period in Europe. And then we have the sort of contemporary field of analytic philosophy, which, as some of the guest speakers whose comments and insights are all being published in videos that we will be uploading each day of the course, some of them have mentioned analytic philosophy as a sort of almost equivalent or something that has an equivalent function to Tibetan Nalanda style debate. So you might have that doubt. Well, why even learn foreign tradition? And the reason for that is because Aristotle's and the medieval European traditions are not active. No one's practicing them in the modern world, not that I'm aware of in the contemporary world. So we don't really have a living tradition of them. So it's hard to learn how to do it. The analytic philosophy doesn't have an oral component. It's something that's done through writing. So there are unique features of the Nalanda debate which allows us to have a real human face-to-face, real-time dialogue, yet at the same time have very streamlined logical statements, which we call syllogisms, put into this kind of logical format that you can just speak to someone, hear their response, send out another reason, another syllogism, hear their response. And so you can really, that's what allows for this invigorating experience of seeking knowledge, because you're with other human beings. Two minds are better than one, right? Two heads are better than one. So this is a standard cliche, but really, well, I'll welcome you to explore, experiment, and see if you find this to be the case as we go through our course. So with that, I'd like to just say we've been talking now for a little while, and so we want to break up each session into sort of segments. So we've had some time of explanation, introduction, and so now why don't we break out into groups? Now we haven't learned anything about how to debate yet, so what are we going to do in our groups? So we're not going to practice debate just yet. So just for this first breakout session of this very first day, why don't we just break out into small groups? Let's just say, try to keep it under five or less people. And to do that, I should explain how the gather town works, because we didn't really do that yet. You go outside, and surrounding this building, this temple, there's a courtyard that has little sort of shadows, little circles that are dark, like shadows. If you go into that with other people, that's like your own private space. So only you guys will see and hear each other when you're in the circle. People outside of the circle will not see or hear people in the circle. So you create your own little private, your little, which is the only thing that's actually slightly different from the real Sera Jey, where you can actually hear everyone no matter where you go. You can hear other people around you debating, and that is again, as Ken Rinpoche made the good point, actually helps to develop concentration. But for here, that with the computers and everything, it wouldn't be so helpful. I don't think the way we have the gather town here, it's better. So you'll be in your little private bubble, basically. And so 5 people or less, and just go find, you don't have to plan, or just go and randomly pick a circle, find a few people. And what I want you to discuss, and for about 15-20 minutes, what is your motivation for being here? What is your expectation out of the course? So just so you can hear other students' ideas about what they were hoping to get from this program, and what is your sort of longer term vision? How do you think, how might Nalanda debate help your ability to make contributions, positive contributions in society, in the world, and in your own personal life? So those 3 questions, what are your hopes and ideas of what you can get from the course. What are your expectations out of it? And then what is your vision for how it can help to really bring benefit to your own life and to the society by learning about this kind of logic, dialectical dialogue format. Okay, so I'll start a timer, and then after 20 minutes, maybe 50, well, I'll come around and check and see how people are doing, but 15 to 20 minutes, then I'll call everyone back in. It's clear? Okay, 1, 2, 3, break. Hello.
Hello. Still
So I will join also because since we are live streaming, then if I just stood there and did nothing, it would be pretty boring for the people watching by live stream. So, so why don't we just give a quick introduction, of course, first of all, of each other. So I already did that, so why don't someone else go now?
Okay, I'm Yeji Khenpo from Sacramento, California. I've been studying Buddhism very intently for the last 2 years or so. I'm a lawyer by training and background in philosophy as undergrad. So
Cool. Welcome.
thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Jo. I am a student in Nepal, at the monastery in Nepal. And so I've been doing debate for like maybe 2 years in Tibetan, but I'm obsessed with it. I love it. And I just want to do as much of it as I possibly can. And I'm interested in finding out how it could be done in English and just being as involved as possible.
Wonderful. So,
hello everyone. Sorry for the short interruption. I see in front of the main building on the bottom there are 8 circles, and I see a couple of people are gathering there. There are even better means to gather on the dark gray spots scattered around the main building. So those spots are numbered. You won't hear neighboring groups that easily if you move there. Thank you.
Yes, I think there is a confusion because the little symbols, the 8 auspicious signs, are also in circles. So that was my fault for not making that more clear. So that's great. Wow. So we actually have a full-time debater. That's wonderful. So I really appreciate your joining the course because I know that kind of, experience that you can bring to the course will help other students as well. And hopefully you'll still get something out of it. I mean, it's such a brief introduction for someone who's been debating 2 years already, or how long? 2 years, you said?
Well, 1 full year, and then this year, sort of half because of COVID. But I'm not very good. I'm pretty bad at it, but I love it.
Yeah, good. So why don't we share about what you are thinking that you might learn from this program, what kind of expectations you have, and what you would like it to be able to help you with longer term. I could say just for me quickly, I kind of said it already, but to really just be able to start creating communities of debaters in English. Oh, let's let someone else. I think we have to move so he can come in. Hello, or she. Hello. Okay, welcome. Yes, I think we have to make room for. So we're just going around. You, if you want to introduce yourself, and then we're going around to talk about our hopes for the course. Is that? Oh, we have a couple new people. Okay, why don't you guys, the 2 new people who just entered, why don't you just quickly say your names, and then we're going around to explain our hopes and expectations for the program. Betty, would you like to?
Sure. Betty Rogers, and my hope is I'm very grateful for this opportunity to work on my logic, which was never prominent in my rural Louisiana education in my growing up. And also, it's a whole nother dimension of my longtime study of Tibetan Buddhism. I'm very grateful because I've seen monks for decades debating, but I never had an opportunity to penetrate the process that was at work. So I'm very grateful, and to have companions to do it. And I love, Donyo, your description of the social aspect of debate, which I'd never pondered before. So I appreciate that.
So anyone else? Go ahead.
I was just going to add, I came in and I practiced yesterday on this new technology and set up my avatar and was all ready. And I went in, and today it had turned me into this duck. So I don't know. So all of a sudden I look at myself, I'm this duck with a scarf around my neck. So I don't know how that happened.
No, it's perfect because having wild animals wander through, or slightly domesticated animals wandering through the debate courtyard is very realistic.
I agree.
Okay, so whoever else would like to share, please go ahead.
Okay, hello, I am Gabriela. I'm from Mexico, currently live in the Netherlands. And my expectations for the course is gain practice in Tibetan debate. A few months ago, I took introduction course.
Oh, we have a little connection issue. So, okay, is she trying to? Maybe someone else can go in the meantime.
So, hi, Betty and Gabriela. I'm Khenpo. I've started to study Tibetan last summer with one of my teachers, and so I want to try to do debate when I get enough words, basically. But just sort of learning the basics would be great in English to try to carry over to my learning. So.
Okay, thank you. Wonderful. And I think someone else is trying to come in, but there's so many of us in the circle that I'll just check with them. Hello? Hello? Okay. Never mind. Okay, never mind. He's just wondering. So yes, and I forgot your name, but don't student in Nepal, if you'd like to share and say your name once more. Is it just Donovan? Is that accurate?
Oh, me. Hi. Joe.
Okay.
Joe.
So I introduced myself before, but I'm studying in Nepal, and I love debating. It's really fun, and I want to do it as much as possible. And I guess learning in English is a very valuable opportunity. One, because hopefully maybe I could teach other people, and also because it will increase the amount of people that I can debate with. So I guess that's why I'm here.
Awesome. And Gabriella, sorry, I guess your connection got a little rough there for a minute.
Can you hear me now? Well, yeah, I was telling that I studied introduction course in debate, and I got fascinated at how can it help me to analyze my own assumptions. So my main motivation is to gain practice and train myself to be more Asia in the day.
Okay, very cool. So that sounds like people have very good motivations, and it's nice to hear how many of you already have some experience in debate. You know, some of the students joining are kind of from an academic background or in the sciences, a lot of, I think, mostly cognitive sciences. So they're probably more newbies when it comes to what we're going to be studying, but it sounds like you guys have a good basis already, so that will be helpful hopefully for the other students as well when we break out and actually start practicing. Good. Well, we were able to go around in just 10 minutes, so maybe that was enough time. I'll go just check in on a couple other groups if you want to just chat for a minute, and I'll just see how everyone's doing. Okay.
Staying in the main room into the community, which debates, right, things like the nature of reality and other things from a scientific perspective. So I'm really interested.
Great. What about you, Sally, right?
Yeah, yes.
We haven't got the chance to introduce.
Yeah, I think I was introducing myself before you came in earlier. So I'm Sally. I'm from Malaysia. I was actually at Instituto Lama Songkapa. I did the basic program. So you will find it very interesting. So we have touched a little bit on the debate, but we have not really gone into, really learning the how to debate and, so we know the rudiments. And I thought this was a wonderful opportunity to get to know more about the theoretical side. When I was there, when we saw the debate, it was like a book, which is like this thick, right, on debate and religion. I never even want to go into it.
Yeah, that white one, right? The people on the page cover that people are debating, yes.
So that thickness itself scares me off, So now I thought it's a wonderful opportunity, just at least to know generally, and then to see, trying to go in and maybe learn more about how we can sharpen our mind in terms of, when we're involved in like what Claudio was saying, trying to understand the nature of reality and all this. So all these are useful tools, I think, to help. And end of the day is I'm, Dharma inclined. So whatever tools I can use, that would be wonderful, So that is my purpose in motivation in joining this group, because I didn't know of any which was in English, and especially 1 week. I think we can get at least a good idea. I'm hoping, but the practice, I think, would be, you need to put in a lot more effort. I think I'm realistic enough. I won't master it in 1 week, but at least hopefully we'll know the skills and all that. Yeah, the main essential points. So, what was it we were supposed to answer? Motivation.
Hello, Donyo.
Hello.
Connecting.
Good morning, or perhaps afternoon. I'm not sure where you guys are. How is your little discussion going?
Good. Since we have only a couple people, it's been quite quick to go through our basics.
Sure, and now you can just chat for a minute. I'll bring everyone in pretty shortly. Some of the groups have like 6, 7 people, so they're taking a little longer, but okay, good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, are you guys all done? I don't hear anyone else speaking. I'm just coming around to check in on people and see where we're all at. We've gone about 15 minutes.
I think we didn't hear Marlena, I think, but the rest.
Okay, we'll keep going.
Okay. I wasn't sure because I think my audio keeps switching on and off, so sometimes I can't hear people. So unfortunately, I missed some of your elaborations. Yeah, but I will just tell you some of mine. Okay, so
I just wanted to say sorry. My connection is terrible. I will not speak.
Okay. So yeah, I don't really have a lot of background from the theory about the debate, but I was really curious because I'm currently learning or doing a lot of research and learning a lot about the philosophy about the mind and cognition. And in my study program, there are a lot of debates also, and I find it very interesting to learn more about.
Hello, everyone, and apologies to interrupt if you're having a nice discussion, but it's time that we all go back and rejoin in the temple. So, if you're talking in the middle of talking, finish your sentence, but let's go and join the whole group together. Let me just say, I know people are just coming in, but I actually have a message for the viewers on the live stream who are not here in Gathertown, which is simply that I apologize because I think I was not actually live streaming until just about a minute ago. I just checked the YouTube and it looks like there was one little button I had neglected to press to actually start the stream. So I don't know, obviously you can't communicate with me at this moment, but you're welcome to send a message on the Slack or by email if that is the case. Either way, the full session is being recorded, so you will be able to hear the remarks of Khenpo Rinpoche, Sera Jey's Abbot, as well as Marieke and all of the introductory remarks. And please just bear with us. There will be bound to be some technical issues, as always. Okay, let's just take a quick view of how many people have made it in. We'll wait a minute or so. Okay, it looks like the bulk of the people are here, that's the benefit of being in groups. When people start to leave, everyone else will come along too. So that's perfect. All right, well, with that, I just would like to say thank you all for sharing so openly. I was able to check in on a few different groups, and it's wonderful to see that there seem to be an incredible diversity of people from very different backgrounds and quite a number who actually have some experience already in debate. There is one sort of contingent that has registered of students who have been participating in a program through the Lama Tsongkhapa Institute, which has been ongoing for about the past year, led by a very dear friend of mine, Atisha, who is from the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics in Dharamsala, and he has been leading this course in debate where he's taking the students through the traditional debate format, starting right up with what's called the collected topics. That's the standard way of translating this text Dudra in Tibetan, the Dudra texts, which go over they introduce students to the debate format while introducing students to an ontological, epistemological perspective that's grounded in Buddhist philosophy and Indian philosophy, really. And that's really beyond the scope of this course. But I wanted to bring this up because, well, A, those students will be, I'm sure, greatly helpful to everyone because of their knowledge and experience. B, just for those particular students, so you know, some of the terminology, the way of doing things might be a little different than what you've learned already, and that's okay. So I just want to make it clear for everybody that what we're doing is very much experimental. We are not just, for the first time, trying to create debate communities where people are debating in English, but we're also developing the language itself. You know, the greats of the past are great. You know, for the Buddhists, you'll know the term Lotsawa, which means like translator, but is a very respectful way of saying it. The great Lotsawas of the past generation, you know, who are still with us, luckily. For instance, Jeffrey Hopkins, actually Daniel Perdue is not still with us, unfortunately, but they worked very hard to develop a certain terminology for the debate format. But it's open to change, right? Of course, one of the prime principles of Buddhist thought is impermanence. And here, the benefit of having many people gathered together, many different minds, is that out of this, different ways of using the debate format in English might naturally arise. So we're going to be teaching you one specific format that has been sort of the standard for the last few decades for those who have tried to teach and learn debate in English. But it doesn't mean it has to stay in that exact same format. So just keep that in the back of your mind. So learn the format we're doing now because we have to have some structure. That's part of the purpose of having debate at all, right? So of having a structured debate so that you have a structure to your discussions. But with that said, know that there's room for it to evolve. And another reason why I brought up the people coming from this debate course at Lama Tsongkhapa Institute is because, so they were going through this collected topics work, right, which is an introduction to debate at the same time as an introduction to Buddhist philosophy. Now the question might come, well, where do you separate Buddhist philosophy from Nalanda debate? Until now, for the past, since the 12th century, Chapachike Senge, and probably even before that in India, though no one's really sure exactly what Indians were doing in terms of debate, they were sort of united. You learned debate to debate about Buddhist philosophy. Buddhist philosophy was the worldview, the framework for your debate. They're connected. Now, to what degree can they be separated? Because here we have a population, and our long-term, wider interests are to make this available as a tool for anyone who wants to investigate any academic subject, or even, world events and current events, to investigate them with greater clarity, being able to make more accurate distinctions between things. So for anyone, so can we separate the Buddhist philosophy from it is a question that will come up. It's a question that I don't have a complete answer to. What I can say is that in the Buddhist way of doing philosophy, that also was which created and led to this debate format, ontology, epistemology, logic, and psychology, including cognitive psychology as well as affective psychology, these are not distinct fields of study. So these are not conceived of as distinct fields of study. So we're learning a form of logic, of how to apply applied logic by debating. Now, can we somehow pull out some of the ontology, some of the epistemology, some of the psychology? To some degree, but maybe to some degree not. So it may be that wanting to learn this philosophy, also this debate, well, I hope that you can have a willingness to also be able to explore a different type of philosophy with a different type of ontology and epistemology. And at the same time, for this particular course, we're not going to focus on that too much, right? So what are we going to focus on in this course? Well, why don't we get started? So, do you all have, and I can see, let's see, for those of you who have your videos open, I can see you if you shake your head or give a thumbs up. So, or others, maybe you could just raise your hand, and if it's affirmative. Do you all have the documents that were posted in the Slack forum, and especially the document which is called, and I'll just, January 25, Day 1, Session 1, Structure of Debate. It's a PDF. Good. I'm getting some yeses. Awesome. So this is what we're going to go through today. And I am watching the time, so we may not actually have time for another breakout session right now, but we should be able to go quickly. Did you all read it? Did some of you read it already and watch the video called The Syllogism? I'm getting some yeses. Good. I hope that I can't imagine 100%, but you know, we don't know exactly if you're watching the videos and kind of doing the daily assignments. We don't know who's doing them, but on YouTube we do have the analytics to see how many people are watching them, so we'll know if no one has. So it's very nice to see that yes, there are people watching, and of course just seeing the affirmative head shaking is a good sign. So that means you're somewhat familiar, so we can go kind of quickly through this material. So let's just start it. Should I do a screen share? Would people like a screen share so that we can all see this? You think that's am I gonna get any?
Yeah, yes.
Good, thank you. Okay, so that's a good enough reason. So I actually need to see if I can just share one screen like that. Yes, I can. And let me make that full screen. Good. Okay, so here's our table of contents. Don't need to go through that. We'll just start with the first point. There are two roles in a debate, two parties in a debate. There's a questioner. So this just, I like to give different options for terminology because, like I said, it's an ever-evolving, maybe not ever-evolving, but for now, certainly an evolving thing, the terminology we use in debate. So which one do you feel more comfortable with? Do you feel matches the intent of the term better, of the concept better? So there's a questioner. He's also, or she is also a challenger, giving a challenge to an answerer or a defender. So the questioner really controls the debate. They get to control the direction of what happens because they're the one who's asking the questions. So they are really the one who gets to, decide where you're going to be exploring. Now, the rules are not super strict. Why? Because, well, we're like human beings, and it's not like we're in some kind of, stodgy sort of formal setting. No, we're hanging out with dogs in the courtyard, So we and friends. That's really a key thing, right? So of course, if the answerer is really like, really needs to say something, then you can politely say, "Oh, may I just say one thing? May I just suggest one thing?" That's fine. So even though there's a general structure and rule, the questioner controls the debate. They get to ask the questions. You don't have to, if you really need to say something, do it in a friendly and polite way if you're the answerer. That's fine. So the answerer then has a set of prescribed answers to give to the questioner. Those we will go through properly. So then the only real rule that they have in general is that they should, as best as they're able to, stick to the textbook perspective. And that allows the debate to be grounded somewhere so that there's some kind of shared view and shared background. And then the questioner can go at it and completely tear it apart. That's part of the point, right? Are our textbooks really accurate? Do they really get to the bottom of the question? So that's what the questioner does, right? Now, in this context, we don't really have a textbook because we don't have an even one necessarily definite topic that we have to be focused on. We're from so many different backgrounds. So it can be a little more open. But that's why we are using the structure of the first lesson in this collected topics series, which is just about the 5 objects of the senses, or the different sort of ontology of matter, of physical objects. And we will be using that to start with, so that we have some textbook position that we can agree to as the basis of a debate. So that's very helpful. Now, 2 parties in a debate. You can also have multiple people, though, just to be clear. We will spend time in groups as well as one-on-one. So you can have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. If some of you watched the videos of the Tibetan debates that were posted in the Slack forum, you'll have seen that. You can have multiple people all questioning, putting their heads together, multiple people defending. So there are 2 types of debate. And I actually want to thank Marieke for making this particular distinction in a way that I don't think ever had been done before, but it really is helpful to kind of classify and segregate these as 2 distinct forms of debate. Even though you can do them both in one session, but they have different intents and they have slightly different formats. So counting debate and logic debate. Counting debate establishes this common ground. So when you have this textbook position, that's going through it, quizzing each other on it. So the questioner is basically quizzing the answerer on this textbook presentation. Did you read the book? Okay, well, what's the definition of A? What's the definition of B? How many of this category are there? How many of that category are there? What's the relationship? And that's done at the beginning of a session. And normally in the traditional system, in the Tibetan monasteries, we will do that at the beginning of every debate session for roughly 10 to 20 minutes, probably. Yeah, and that just establishes the topic that's going to be debated about. Then the logic debate is really what we mean when we say debate, right? The first one is like a quiz, so you're not really debating each other. The second one is the logic debate, is where you really start to probe the topics which you had laid out in the counting debate. Now within those 2, we have 2 types of question. So we have logic questions and what we can call open-ended questions or information-seeking questions. So logic questions are just that. Questions that you have to use, you put in a format called the syllogism, where you have a subject, a predicate, and a reason, and you're trying to prove a thesis with a reason. An open-ended information-seeking question, these are what we use when we're doing our counting debate, and sometimes, during the logic debate, we will ask an open-ended question. Again, the questioner has the freedom. They can choose when to ask an open-ended question, when to ask a logic question. So you can be going through giving a series of reasons. The answerer, the defender or answerer, denies your reason. Well, then you can just ask, the questioner then has the choice to ask an open-ended question. Well then, as you see the example here, an electron is a fundamental particle because, so if the questioner is trying to prove it's not a fundamental particle, and the answer only has the option to either deny, he only has a set series of answers he can give. So then if the questioner wants to hear more, okay, defender, what's in your head? What's the reason you have? An electron is a fundamental particle because, why? Let the answerer give his reason. So that allows the answer, or her reason, that allows them to simply be open and not just be restricted to this those specific restricted answers.
Yeah, and actually, maybe just to add one little thing is, for me, it was very helpful when it was explained to me that actually the whole purpose of debate is also to clarify the thinking of the person who is defending. So as a questioner, your job is not to have your own opinions about that, but rather you meet them where they are, and then you try to work out, well, how consistent is that position that you're having?
Thank you so much for bringing that up. And that also reminds me of another point to mention, that when we're talking about the syllogism, that's just a general term that refers to any kind of logical statement. You know, there's Aristotle's syllogisms, there are different forms and different systems of logic. But what we actually are using when we debate in the Nalanda system, the Nalanda tradition debate, is a consequential syllogism. So it's what is called reductio ad absurdum logic, where you take someone's position. So the defender already has a position, and you just draw out what are the logical consequences if that were true. So, you know, the questioner, sometimes you might just agree with them and not have any doubt to raise. But, you know, then you have two options in that case: pick another question, or just use your creativity and think, well, okay, even if I agree with them, I have to find some way to pick a fault in their view. And then that helps it gives you a new way of thinking about the subject, the topic. So thank you. Very true. So we're helping to clarify the thinking of each other, really. And okay, so the open-ended questions can be in the form of simply what are the different types or the different categories or divisions of a certain category, topic, of a certain item, or it could be what's the reason for this or that position you have, or it could be what is the definition of something. So we really focus a lot on definitions, and we can talk about why later. I left my screen. Okay. Two types of logic questions. All right, let me just see. We're running short on time, so can I just check, because we are going to run short on time, if there are any questions or comments, and you can just raise your hand if you have one.
Just quickly, it seems like you stepped off from the stage. You are not in the spotlight anymore, and only a few people can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. That's what happened when I have two monitors I'm working with, which can be very helpful, but can also be confusing. So I pressed the down arrow trying to move down in the document, and instead moved my body. Okay, so what I was asking though is if there are any questions at this point, since we will be coming short on time, could you please raise your hand, and then we can take some questions about just anything about the course itself, how we're going to conduct the course, or about the material we're going through. I just wanted to check now before we run out of time. Okay, I don't see any hands. I don't think, Stefan, is that right, that if there was a hand up, where would I actually see it? Because I only have a few screens visible at any one moment. So would it appear somewhere? Why don't you try it so I can just see what it looks like?
Okay, I'm raising my hand quickly. So if you go to the user list now, you see the people that raised their hands on top of the list.
Okay, we have people with their hands raised. I see. Thank you very much. So I understand now. We have 3 questions. Okay, so let's take the questions. Rimpi, if you can just unmute yourself, I think we'll be able to hear you. Or maybe you have to come up onto the stage.
Right. If you're doing questions, if people are not texting questions, feel free to come on stage so other people can hear your question too.
Okay, so Rimpi is not up yet. So Claudio, why don't you ask your question first?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. No, I was just wondering. So some of us are auditors. Like I signed up as an auditor. So how are we differentiated like that? Do we just pop in and say, "Hey, I'm an auditor. Don't ask questions," or can we just jump in sometimes if we maybe feel comfortable during the
yeah, so the only reason we had to make a distinction between auditors and full participants is because we have a limit to the number of people who can be in Gather Town at once. So we had 120 people sign up for the program, and we have a much smaller limit. I think it's 50 or maybe 60, is it, for Gather Town? So we have enough, then once we made that distinction, there's only, some 25, 30 people who decided to be the full participants. That just means so you can join whenever you're able to, but we wanted to make sure that there was plenty of room for those who were able to commit to coming to every session. So please join whenever you're able to. Yeah, in Gather Town. And then YouTube is having the live stream. As I said, it's up and running now for sure. I'm not even sure if it was the first 30 minutes of the session.
It wasn't.
Oh, it wasn't. Oh,
No.
I'm sorry.
Now it is. Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you. So next question. There's an anonymous, so you can go.
Yes, hi. Sorry, I couldn't yet figure out how to put my name on the thing correctly. So I have more of a, if you want to call it, partially historical, partially pedagogical question as far as the debate format is concerned. I mean, you were mentioning kind of these syllogistic formats and the distinction between the Indian classical syllogisms and the kind of Aristotelian logics and the later medieval ones that the Western world has. But strictly speaking, as far as the Nalanda tradition is concerned, I mean, the bigger proponent of these sorts of syllogistic views was Bhava Viveka, but then he later fell into favor towards Chandrakirti and his students. So I'm wondering, what exactly is the prasanga method that you want us to engage with insofar as the pedagogical model seems to be leaning closer towards how Bhava Viveka kind of envisioned the role of forming arguments towards increasing knowledge?
So I'm not sure exactly where you're thinking about Bhava Viveka's stance on logic. In general, consequential reasoning is such that you have a position, and then if there's some flaw in the position, then a questioner, a challenger, will, based on what you're saying, if you hold a certain pervasion to be the case, and you have some contradictory views. So just to give the classic example, a correct syllogism would be such that we say the subject sound is impermanent because of being a product. So say you have someone who believes sound to be permanent, or meaning unchanging, non-momentary, unchanging. So then, and this comes from, for instance, the Vedic view, which people actually still do hold to this day, even, that the Vedas were uttered by Brahma, and so they are, and for other reasons as well, just the nature of sound is such that it sort of goes through space and never really kind of changes. It just moves through space and is a kind of permanent entity. So someone might believe that sound is permanent, but they also believe that things which are created from causes, that have their own causes and conditions that allow them to arise, that they must be changing. So they have these two kind of views that they're holding at once, which are contradictory. So then someone can say to them, take the subject sound. It follows that it is not produced from causes and conditions because it is permanent. Sorry, do we have a comment from Stefan? No. Okay. So that's the basic, that's an example of what we're saying. So just to give a contemporary world, real world event example, if I may try it. So we had for the Americans here, which I know are a minority, but hopefully if you're here, you have your coffee and you can sneak a few sips now and then. It's early morning, but not that early anymore. And so we had an election, a presidential election, which I don't need to explain. I'm sure people are aware of what happened. And so one of the candidates had lost, but claimed that he won and that there was fraud, which is what made it look like he had lost. So you might have someone say, okay, so there was like some people showing all sorts of videos on different, news stations that were in support of this idea. And so you would have a video. There was a video of someone pulling out, ballots, a big box of voter ballots from under a table. And that became this object of scrutiny for people who believed this idea that there was a voter fraud and that the election was fraudulent. So they said, oh, look, they were just taking these extra ballots out or something. So then you might say to that person, so, is your belief that if someone pulls a box of ballots from under a table, they're necessarily fraudulent votes or faked ballots? Is that like the pervasion, a statement of pervasion? And so then if you hold that view, then you say, okay, well, let's look at another subject. Take the subject, ballots that were pulled out from under the table in, a state where your candidate won, had the most votes, which there were many of. So it follows that those were fraudulent ballots because they were pulled out from under a table. Is that making sense? Am I just maybe for Americans this is more clear because we've all been like watching on the edge of our seats for the past couple months of this weird process going on. But basically, it's like you have an idea, you see one instance of something, and you say, well, that must be fraudulent. So now you would have to apply that to other situations as well, and you say, well, if that's fraudulent, then the ballots that were cast for the person that in a place where the other guy got more votes, those must have also been fraudulent ballots, right? Because they were pulled out from under a table. So you're just you're using the inner contradiction that someone has in their mind. Someone believes sound is a permanent, unchanging phenomenon, an unchanging entity, but they also know that things which come from causes and conditions must be changing. So you tell them, take the subject sound. It follows that it is unchanging. It follows that it wasn't created from causes, which they already know to be true, right? It follows it wasn't created from causes because of your view. It follows from your stated belief. It must not be created from causes because, like you say, it's permanent and unchanging. Contradiction. So that's what is meant by consequential reasoning. And just so you are aware, we use the format of the language of consequential reasoning, which is this three-part syllogism. Take the subject sound. It follows that it's unproduced because it's permanent. We use that language, but then we can also put it into a standard syllogistic reasoning where we're not trying to point out necessarily a logical flaw. We're just trying to prove something with a reason, but using the same format. So that would be the reverse, right? We would, instead of using an absurd consequence as our reason, sound is not permanent, but that's the belief of the person we're talking to. But we could also just say, take the subject sound. It follows that it's impermanent because it's produced. And that's now, you're just giving a true reason there. So that's more standard syllogism. That may be a question that it will make more sense as you start debating and get a sense for it, which we will need to come back to in session 2 today because it's very close to our time, but we do have one more. Oh, do we still have a question, or those hands are just left up? So I think we'll just go a little bit more, if there are no more questions, through this document while we have 2 minutes. Okay, so we have 2 types of logic questions. We have a statement of thesis. Take the subject Socrates, it follows that he is mortal. Take the subject an electron, it follows that it is a fundamental particle. Take the subject, ballots pulled out from under a table in Georgia, it follows they are fraudulent or not fraudulent, whatever you want to say about it. It's a thesis as a subject plus a predicate, and it's phrased in this way. A statement of pervasion now, this is indicating some logical entailment or necessity. So it's an if-then statement. You don't say take this or that subject. You don't explicitly say this is the subject. We say instead it follows that if X, if someone is a human, then they are necessarily mortal. If something is a member of the standard model, it's necessarily a fundamental particle. If there's something which is a box of ballots pulled from under a table, then it's necessarily a box of fraudulent votes. So those are the kinds of questions that we can ask. And now we are at the end of our first session of our course. So if there are more questions, you're welcome to stay a few minutes extra if you have a question that you'd just like to ask, and others can leave or others can listen. If there are no more questions, then we can break for now, and we'll get right into some debate when we join back up for session 2 because we didn't have time yet. So one last chance for questions. I see there's some chat going on in the chat box. Okay. Oh, Rimpy had some trouble with the audio, maybe. Okay, so we're good, right? Do we have a question or no? I think. Okay, I think that's good for now. Looks like my video is off. Okay, and thank you to all the people watching on YouTube, and I apologize for the stream not being up at the proper time.